enjoying the story of Dr. Bishop Kenroy Burke, pastor of the Kingdom Empowerment New Testament Church of God, celebrating 20 years. And what a story it is. Be blessed and be encouraged as we continue to track his journey.
Let's skip a little bit though, because we live in a dispensation where we may hear a perspective that, yes, older people want to help. They want to give advice. They want to share of their experience. But it may appear as though the younger people, the people in the generation or generations under them, may not want the advice, may not want to listen. When you were speaking of men who took time to share, to invest in you, to watch and give advice, and you speak of yourself as a person who is willing to listen. You speak very fondly of them. The times that we are in now where you have this other perspective, perhaps it was like that all along, where, you know, we may not want to listen as much as we should. We have it all on YouTube. We are confident in the motivation that we get on LinkedIn and Instagram, and it's that kind of world where so much information is available. But that importance, though, of listening to those who've been there.
So Anthony, you struck a chord that really and truly is always before my mind. I can't say to you that I started as the most teachable person. Came out of school, came out of Bible school, did well and everything else. I never forget when I came to the church, I had a blueprint of how I was going to run the church based on Rick Warren's book. I knew everything that I was going to do. So when I came into a ministry, I would have watched people who in my estimation looked as though they were struggling, and I thought to myself I would bring something totally different and everything else. But let me say the two things that I did not have, which several of the other persons had, was experience and wisdom. Because experience speaks for itself. You have to go through it. You have to. So I knew from a book perspective what a pastor is, but when I started to pastor, that's when the rubber really hit the road and I started to see certain things. I understood also why several people did things the way they did. But the second thing was wisdom. Wisdom was built into the experience. So as you experience certain things, then you become a whole lot wiser to be able to apply the knowledge and the experience that you've had into meaningful ways so you don't go through those same challenges. And I did not have either of them, but I had to go through certain things and get a very humble prayer in order for me to be able to recognize it.
That's quite interesting, because it's not every day that you may find strong leaders admitting that, well, I got it wrong, I wasn't always teachable.
Listen, let me say this to you, and I pray that God forgive me for all the mistakes even that I made with people. Sometimes even the advice that I gave where I felt as though, walked away and said years later, I probably should not have said this to this person or done this, because it is all a learning experience. I thank God for his grace and the ability to even sometimes when you make a mistake, still twist things and turn things around to put them right back on full throttle and moving forward. So I made those mistakes. But this is the thing now. Today's experience is a little different, because I find that with that lack of humility comes a whole set of arrogance and those kind of things. And it is almost as though people are attempting now to wipe the slate of all that the guys before did for us. And that would be crazy of us to even imagine just wiping the slate and trying our very best, quote unquote, to do it the right way. I have never ever seen anybody who's attempted it get it done. I've never seen any of them done it successfully, because really and truly, the experiences of those guys are worthy enough for us to be standing on their shoulders and be able to just move on from where they were. And imagine I am the pastor at all that the pastors before me, I just came and I ripped it apart and took it out and threw it away, and then say, look, let's start over this church. Now the church is 50 years old, I've only been here for 20. So 30 years before me had to have made a major impact in order for us to still be able to experience 50 years. So we can't just wipe it away like that.
Yeah, speaking of the interesting topic of leadership, and you're speaking so much from a personal perspective, and I wanted to ask you a question about leadership as we see it and what we see happen. You know, people may have different perspectives of leaders who may be strong, who may be weak, and why they may be weak in this area, or even though they're a strong leader, their challenges. All of us have challenges. Let me ask you the question directly. Would you say, how would you address the whole issue of pride? Have you ever experienced that personally as a leader, where you had to look back and say, no, I have to deal with this particular challenge? And I ask that because of how you explained so eloquently the fact that, look, I've had to look back and realize I wasn't perfect, and there are some things I had to get over.
So let me be straight up with you, Anthony. Today, right now, I still fight it because pride is a function of the carnal nature, and it will be something that sometimes you could be just on that very thin line, and you don't even realize you're walking that tightrope. That if you make one mistake, you fall on that side of pride. Especially to when things are happening in your life. And even if things are happening, but from the very appearance of other persons, it feels as though things are happening in your life. You can walk that very tightrope of pride. So I have been very intentional over the years to ensure that I never ever get to that place where I walk in this as though it is because of my own abilities and my own strength, my wisdom, anything that I had to offer. I'm being forced to make sure that I will never ever take the credit for anything because it was all God. And when I see God's hand in this journey, it is very unlikely that I would ever even get to that place. I mean, even this whole focus has been giving back to God and being able to be a blessing to others along the way, because it is not about me. It really and truly is not about me. So pride is just something that you could be on the brink of it and you don't even realize. You could probably be even operating it and don't even recognize. So it is necessary then for us as leaders to remain grounded, to understand who is the person who is really carrying us through and allowing us to be able to accomplish the things that we are accomplishing, and never ever at any point in time seek to take the glory. Never at all ever seek to take the glory. Sometimes you even have to be intentional in saying, to God be the glory, so that is repeated in your spirit. You get to that place where you never ever even think about saying, it is because I did this. I am always mindful of this, Anthony, something that I would want everybody to remember. Lucifer went around with one word. And it was the first word that he used. I. The shortest word that there is, but that was the first word that he used. I came this, and from the time he started saying I then segued into a pride that became rebellion, and it was a case where I could do this better, and I see it in young people. I see a lot of young people who they're working alongside pastors or working alongside leadership, and it starts nice, and then for some reason it becomes a comparison. They may get a few shouts like oh, well done, so, and it starts to become a comparison, and they forget that they are supposed to be working along with God and working along with the person that is in leadership, and it then becomes competition and those kind of things. Pride starts.
And how would you advise those leaders who aspire to leadership, to the head, to the top, or those who have the ability and they're on the way there? And I suppose that this could be not only as you know, in terms of from the perspective of ministry, but it could be leadership in any area. It could be corporate. It could be we spoke about sport. It could be sport, area of the arts, even in the home as well. because there are leadership roles in the home and in families. What word of advice would you give to aspiring leaders?
So Anthony, one of the things that I would want to start saying is obviously, yes, remain humble. But saying that in itself is not a formula for someone to just, because people sometimes wonder what is humility. We're in a space now where every achievement you can post. Everything that happens in your life, even down to what you eat, you can post. So the persons who are out there posting those things and they're seeking likes and those kind of things, and sometimes the more likes they get, the more you start to realize that the personality starts to change and certain things. So we are in that kind of space. So instead of saying remain humble, what I would want to say is, and this has been the one that has driven me, remain teachable. Because the ability to be teachable will force you to be humble. So if along life you are saying, I'm not just going to learn from life, but I'm going to do my best to learn from all those who are around me. I'm going to do my best to, and I'm not just learning from those that I think I look up to, but I'm learning from those that even if at any point I think I can look down on, I'm going to learn from those ones too. I'm going to learn from everybody around me. Because the key is, as long as I remain teachable, I remain pliable in God's hands. From the time I stop being teachable, it means then that I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to only get the most like Frank Sinatra did it my way, but my way might not be the best way. In fact, it won't be the best way if the option is against God's way. So I've learned what it means then to be as teachable as possible. My challenge to young pastors and young leaders coming up, if you're going to start it, yes, I want to say to you, remain humble. But when I say remain humble, sometimes that may not resonate as much as be teachable. Let life teach you the lessons that are necessary for you to grow in that wisdom and to develop into who you're supposed to be, as well as let others be able to pour into you. You don't know everything. I'm amazed that there are persons who have never pastored, but they know how to do it better than the other pastor. You understand what I'm saying? You don't know everything. So the key is humble yourself, become teachable so that you can be better than anybody that I'm investing in their lives, Anthony. I want them to be better than I am.
Yeah.
And it will only come by them learning from my experiences, all my failures, all my shortcomings.
We could ask the question, how do you remain teachable? Sometimes we can get so focused on the goal, the ambition of success, and there's so little time to get so much done. But how do you remain teachable? How do you, because I suppose this is where you really have to take time to organize yourself and how you lead yourself in a way that you actually identify moments, identify times, respond to things appropriately, be able to reflect. But it'll be interesting to hear from you who you're making this strong point. Be teachable. And let me ask the teacher how.
So the first thing that I do on a yearly basis is I go through a self-evaluation process. I pause just around my vacation period. Some people's vacation may be going out and enjoying all these, but a major part of my vacation is I pause to remain very focused on me. And I take the time to go through, to evaluate, honest evaluation, ask the Holy Spirit to really give me some honest evaluation. But then I am in a habit also of wiping the slate clean and starting fresh. So whatever I accomplished in the last year, that, yes, it may be a springboard for me to be able to come forward and to do more, but I will leave that in the last year, forget those things which are behind, and I keep pressing forward. And the pressing forward aspect of it has always driven me then to one, start with that self-evaluation, two, clean that slate and make sure that everything is ready and ready for me to go, but three, seek ways then to improve. So sometimes you have to be as practical, and let's go back to the classroom. Sit them under someone's ministry. Along the way, I've asked people to pour into my life in such a way where I've said, I want you to, in the next 6 months, just pour into me. Just say to me what you think you need to say. Just tell me what you see. And I've done that quite. We've never broadcast it. I have 2 persons who are overseas who do that for me, and 1 who is here. And I just tell them, just speak into my life. And then I seek to correct those things which I believe I need to correct. I seek to consistently improve on those things, because you never make it. I don't know why in our minds we believe that we make it. I believe that when you stop learning, you're dead. Anything that has stopped learning is dead, full stop. Because you have to consistently be getting new experiences. So for anybody now who is started in the ministry, the best thing that you could ever start out with is, I don't know everything, but have a real intent to know as much as possible. But be honest to say, I don't know everything. Even if you talk that way, we hear you in the class and you come out to the class. When you come into the class now of real world and you come into this real environment that we're in, be honest about it. I do not know everything. No matter how many years. 20 years is not enough for me to stick some badges now on my shoulder and say, I know everything about pastoral ministry. I became a bishop brother, so I know everything, so I don't need to hear anything from anybody. Of course not. This is now time for me now to say, okay then, I don't do too badly in the first 20, so now I need some people in my life to help me with the next 20. God willing. Because the first 20 looks one way. The next 20 now, you need mentors in your life now to be able to help you through the next 20. If you break down your life like that in a very practical way, it will make a lot of sense to you. But we group it, we look at the goals, we look at the end game, we look at the things that we want to accomplish, and it is a case of life has taught us to do it however we can do it and fight for it as much as we can, and even if we need to knock people down along the way, whatever we need to do. But the Holy Spirit says, just be teachable. Just be teachable. Just be pliable in the hands of the Lord. And once you're pliable in the hands of the Lord, Holy Spirit will do all the rest for you.